Hey guys, it's Robert here for Pensari Basketball. This is a new YouTube channel specifically focused on thoughtful insights on the game of basketball and specifically on your Toronto Raptors. So what I want to do here is break down quarters 2 and 4 for the Raptors. All the offensive possessions. It takes about 8 minutes, 9 minutes in real time to just run through all these possessions. And I want you to see if you can spot certain trends between what good offensive possessions look like for the Toronto Raptors and what bad offensive possessions look like for the Toronto Raptors. I'm going to look at all the good ones first, and then we're going to get to the bad ones. So let's start on a positive note, and let's look at what happens when the Raptors offense works. I want to be clear. I don't care if the shot goes in. This is not the point of the video. What I care about is, was there movement? Did the right person take the shot? And when they took the shot, was a better pass or better shot available that was clearly better? So this is really just what I want to focus on in this video breakdown. So let's look at the good offensive possessions. I'll stop if I need to stop in the middle so that you can see and I can maybe point certain things out. All right. So we're going to start here on Gary Trent. We're going to see quickly that to skip past the speed. So first, I want to just preface this by saying that you're going to notice that a lot of good possessions start early in the shot clock and a lot of bad possessions are going to start later in the shot clock. Now, it's not always a terrible sin to walk the ball up the court. There are certain times when you really do need to regather yourself and really just initiate a really good look. But a lot of times, the slower possessions for the Raptors should actually be a lot faster than they are. So here we see Gary Trent get rid of the ball very quickly to Svi, who's wide open. You're going to see the fact that he's open is going to force the defense to close out on him out of control, and that's going to result in Svi getting right past his man for a layup. That's a great offensive possession. Now here you're going to see another example. Great pass to Fred VanVleet, and then Fred VanVleet reads a perfect pass. I mean, I would argue it's a pretty good pass. OG just sort of fumbles it, but he gets the 2 points from that. So once again, we see another quick offensive possession where the ball has already changed hands twice by the time we get to 18 seconds. Fred VanVleet, he's going to pitch Gary Trent wide open, okay? Here's another possession. Again, ball has already changed hands. Gary Trent fumbles it a little bit. Still a positive offensive possession, and it generates a positive look. Now, you can argue that based on the spacing, there really wasn't much time with 12 seconds ticking to then reinitiate the offense from the top and try to, beat the shot clock. So I would argue that's a pretty good look for Gary Trent Jr. and, good pass by Scotty Barnes. I want to also say that when you initiate your offense early in the game, early in the shot clock, what you're going to see a lot is that defenses are out of position, box out, matchups and box out assignments are not assigned. And you're going to see a lot of offensive rebounds off of breakdowns for the Toronto Raptors, which is another reason that when the Raptors get into their offense earlier, they're a lot more dangerous. So here we have Precious Achiuwa handling the ball on the break. The obvious pass here is clearly to Chris Boucher. Precious Achiuwa is notorious for having tunnel vision, and I was very shocked that he actually made a great play here, but he does. It's a nice dunk for Chris Boucher, who had a pretty good game. Okay, now we're going to see one of the slower offensive possessions that actually works into a positive. Now, I would argue that this probably took a little longer to initiate that first pass, which is pretty much a hallmark of all Fred VanVleet initiated possessions, but gets the ball to OG. I don't necessarily think this is a very favorable matchup, but obviously the Philadelphia 76ers do, and they send a double. And this double is then going to result in a wide open shot for Fred VanVleet. He misses the shot. I went back and forth on this on whether or not he should have passed Gary Trent. I can argue that Seth Curry was just close enough to Gary Trent that the shot that he took would have been just as open as the shot that Gary Trent took. So why get cute, right? So it's not a bad possession. So here we're going to see another play where Fred VanVleet holds the ball a lot, but it turns out into a positive possession. So he attacks downhill. Now this downhill collapse, then it offsets because Svi is able to relocate to the corner. Now the part of this possession that actually is great is not the slow initiation, but rather the facilitation by Svi. So I want to preface this by saying just for terms, because I'm going to use the word initiator and facilitator and finisher a lot. In this play, Fred VanVleet is the initiator. Svi is the hybrid initiator / facilitator, where he's going to be a conduit for ball movement, and OG is going to be the finisher on this. So here, let's check this out. So now the smart move here is that he attacks right off the catch. He doesn't play with the ball. He doesn't try to dribble. He doesn't try to get past his man. It's just not his game. So smart move, attacks the baseline, tiptoes, and he does get himself in the air, but I would argue he knows exactly where this pass is going. So, and again, doesn't generate 3 points, but it generates an absolutely open look for one of your better shooters. So it's a great possession. Here, Fred VanVleet holds the ball. Now, again, holding the ball is not always bad. In this case, it was actually a good decision to hold the ball, force the defense to commit. Defense reads this situation horribly. OG Anunoby sneaks away. Fred VanVleet makes a great pass. And even though, and by the way, that resulted in, if I'm not mistaken, yeah. So it results in an open dunk for OG Anunoby. Whichever way you slice it, he got fouled. He didn't make the dunk. That's not really Fred VanVleet's responsibility. At the end of the day, it generates an open look at the basket for one of your better players. So I would consider it an open shot and a positive offensive possession. So one of the things that you'll notice with Khem Birch in the lineup versus Khem Birch outside the lineup is that you really don't have a lot of screen creation, screen assists, DeMarcus All-Stat, right? So you'll see like Precious Achiuwa really does a terrible job of initially setting the pick, but he resets the pick, gets Fred VanVleet wide open enough that Scotty Barnes can sneak baseline into the dunker spot, and then Scotty, it's like genius processing, right? He can make the play to two players right now. He makes the right play to Precious Achiuwa, honestly, because the defense is in a better position to recover on OG Anunoby, who's cutting off the top. So he passes within a split second to Precious Achiuwa. Precious Achiuwa just honestly mishandles it. Looked at the pass a couple of times. It was a decent pass, just unfortunate. Sometimes it just rolls through your fingers. New ball, Wilson ball apparently is pretty slippery, so just chalk it up to that. Here's another offensive possession. Generates a wide open look for OG Anunoby at the basket. He gets fouled, goes to the line, 2 points. Okay, another slow possession where Fred VanVleet crosses over. Again, 14 seconds into the clock, still has not gotten rid of the ball. 13, 12, 11, dribble. But here you'll see that a couple of things happen. So first of all, I want to show you what happened here. So Andre Drummond is supposed to rotate here. If he was a better defender, which he's not, even though Nick Nurse called him a decent defender, he's not a good defender, okay? There's a big reason why the Lakers decided not to re-sign him. It's because he gives up boneheaded plays like this. Andre Drummond has to drop here. Precious Achiuwa is not a threat. Tyrese Maxey is not capable of recovering, and for whatever reason, one of those two defenders, probably both, need to collapse the middle. And if honestly, if this is the Raptors defense, that defensive collapse would come right away. But instead, Fred VanVleet reads this perfectly and he gets right to the basket. I would also argue that, I want to just take that possession back for a second, because I think this is a hallmark Raptor possession. So a better team is going to read this 100%, and it's not going to work. And the reason it's not going to work is because Precious Achiuwa standing at the three-point line at the top is not a threat to score. Scotty Barnes standing in the corner is not a threat to score. The only guy right now who's a threat to score is Fred VanVleet. And if the defense recovers, right, then you're stuck, because they have ample defenders on this side, right? So really, your two shooters are on the opposite side of the ball. So even though I have counted this as a positive possession because it results in a positive play, like a wide open, layup, and it's hard to argue with a wide open layup, and it's really hard to argue with what Fred VanVleet did here, I would argue that this entire offensive setup is incorrect, because what you would want here is for OG and Gary. So you would have to literally create this exact action off the other side. And then you would have, because it's just really difficult right now if a defender actually recovers here, Fred VanVleet is going 3-on-1, right? He's having one guy trailing him from behind, two guys collapsing, and the two guys who are left open are both non-shooters. So I'll argue that this is a positive possession for our purposes here, but this is just not a smart play to try to run against a good team. Against a bad team, which is what the Sixers are without Embiid and Thibault and Simmons, honestly, this is just exploiting stupidity. So it was good job for VanVleet. All right, so here we're going to see a little bit of transition play where Fred VanVleet, a little slow, but right. So again, this is going to count as a positive play, but I can't tell you how much it drives me insane when a clear advantage is just evaporated through just slow processing. So here we're going to see OG Anunoby get the ball in the post. The Sixers are going to commit a double team, which they almost always do. And there are two options for OG right now. One is a pass to Gary Trent, who is demanding the ball right in the right at the top. The other is a pass to Svi. And really, Scotty Barnes, the passing angle is blocked off. Fred VanVleet, passing angle is blocked off. I could make a point that both of those guys are probably in pretty good positions, because if Scotty is non-shooter, this is really the only place he can impact this play as an offensive rebounder. So he's in the right position. Gary demanding the ball right now is probably a decent shot, but OG is going to reject a decent shot and create a great shot. And I'll tell you what the difference is. So right now, he's thinking Gary Trent's wide open. So I'm going to pass up. And now he's going to realize that Svi is a little bit more wide open. And the reason that Svi is more open, right, is because the defense has their back turned to him, and there's no way that someone is going to move backwards and recover it fast enough, and wide open. Doesn't matter if the shot doesn't go in, guys. It's just a beautiful read by OG Anunoby in the post. So here, okay. Notice something happening on some of the Raptors' offensive possessions. Positive possessions for the Raptors, usually the ball changes hands before the 18-second mark. Negative possessions usually have one thing in common, which is that the shot comes way too early in the shot clock because somebody just dribbles up the court and shoots like Pascal Siakam did last game, or some guy comes up the court and dribble until 14 seconds left on clock before they initiate the offense. So here you're going to see Svi give up the ball to Scotty Barnes, which is the right move. And then Svi is going to relocate to the corner, which is another brilliant move. Okay, gives the ball to Fred VanVleet. Scotty sets the pick here. Now, right here, Scotty is wide open, but you can make an argument that he's going to be contested at the rim. So there's three passes that Fred VanVleet can make. Well, four passes Fred VanVleet can make, because everyone's open right now. You can make a point that Gary Trent, probably the defense is going to recover. OG Anunoby, passing angle is a little bit risky, and probably the defense will recover. Svi is probably going to be wide open if Scotty cuts hard enough, and we're going to see what happens here. Boom. That's exactly the right play. And that play happens because Scotty Barnes cuts hard, sucks his man in. If Scotty floats, that defender gets to stay. He doesn't have to commit. So when you cut to the basket, even though you're not getting the ball, you have to do so to cut, to suck in the defender to free up your shooters. And that's what Scotty Barnes did so well tonight. So it's a great job for him. And he tries to get the offensive rebound. So let's go to another positive Raptor possession here in the fourth quarter. Fred VanVleet brings the ball up the court. You're going to see another notoriously slow setup. Here he rejects the screen. Now, this is genius, because what he was thinking first was that OG Anunoby had Tyrese Maxey. Now, OG didn't steal hard enough, and Maxey fought over the pin down. So right now, there are really three options. And I'll argue two of them are terrible options, and one of them is a great option. The terrible option is to pass to OG, who is clearly doubled. Probably something that Precious Achiuwa would do in this situation. Fred doesn't do this because he's smarter than Precious Achiuwa. The second option is a lob, probably, to Scotty Barnes, who is clearly a lot bigger than Seth Curry. And I will argue that that will probably result in 2 points. Scotty is a huge lob target. He's really athletic, and he's extremely good around the basket. The bad pass would be to Gary Trent, because the defense would be able to load up the shot trajectory. The brilliant pass, which is what Fred VanVleet does here, is a skip pass to Svi Mykhailiuk. So watch this. Boom. Shot in. Great possession by Fred VanVleet. This is a little bit of, what do you have to say about that? It's great defense by OG Anunoby and a dunk. Now here, this was actually the second half of a bad possession. So the first possession was a shot that Gary Trent took, and the second, which is a good shot, is you're going to see the bad on the flip side of this video. But this is a great shot because let's just watch what happens here. So off the offensive rebound by Svi, right? Now, that's just great because both defenders know the scouting report. Gary Trent is an unwilling passer. Here, he becomes a willing passer, and he passes up a good shot for a great shot. This was very impressive. Good job, Gary Trent. This, honestly, is my favorite possession of the game because it involves three of my favorite players. Here, Scotty Barnes pitch ahead to Svi Mykhailiuk instead of doing what he usually does. The Raptors have a huge advantage. The Sixers are obviously being slow to recover. If you look at it, this is really a 5-on-2 break. Okay, if Fred VanVleet and Gary Trent come up the court, Andre Drummond is trailing far behind. This is the type of possession that the Raptors screw up every single game, at least 5 times a game. And here, they don't screw it up. Because the screw up here would be for Svi Mykhailiuk to take a contested shot at the rim and probably miss or get fouled and doesn't get the call. But here he decides to pitch over to Gary Trent. He pitches to OG Anunoby. But you're going to see that this entire play really starts with Scotty Barnes making that first pass so quickly. So look at the clock. It's 14 seconds when Scotty gets the ball. Within 2 seconds, the ball is out of his hand to Svi. That entire play was 4 seconds. It's brilliant. That's excellent execution of the fast break. Okay. Now, as much as I believe that Precious Achiuwa is not a great finisher inside, despite what his metrics and measurements might say, I'll argue that this is a great pass. Okay. You catch a guy going downhill where he's a threat. He sucks in the defender. There isn't, at the moment that he takes this shot, there isn't a better pass that he could make without committing a turnover. So I'll argue he makes the right pass. Drummond just makes a better block. And we can argue all day whether or not that was really a block or it was really a foul. I think it was really a foul on the lower body, on the follow through. And honestly, if it was the Raptors, they probably would have gotten called for a foul, but it was the Sixers at home. They didn't get called for a foul. So I'd say probably a botched call by the refs. Great. Okay. So now we have OG Anunoby. Okay. Now he's reading the court. There's 13 seconds left on the shot clock. No need to panic here. He has a defender on him, but Drummond is in the paint because Precious Achiuwa is not someone who can space him out of the paint. So Drummond just gets to hang out and, stay at the rim. And this is not the 90s, and OG Anunoby is not Michael Jordan. He's not about to go over to Dikembe Mutombo here. So OG Anunoby makes a smart read here. He asks Precious Achiuwa to come up, set the screen, create okay, so OG can make 2 plays here. And I'll argue within 1 second he loses the opportunity to make that play. Now, Tyrese Maxey tags Precious Achiuwa in the paint. So now OG has 2 passes that he can make. Really, he has 2 passes because Scotty's a non-shooter in the corner. He can either pass back to Fred VanVleet, which is probably an open shot, or he can pass to a relocating Gary Trent, and you're going to see what happens here. You can see right in the corner where you see Fred VanVleet is begging for the ball. It's an open shot, and it goes in. I'd argue, if you really want to get into the nitty-gritty of it, he probably should have passed to Fred VanVleet. Fred VanVleet had a better shot. This is one of those opportunities of giving up a good shot, which OG Anunoby had going downhill, for a great shot, which Gary Trent had. Sometimes you overpass the ball and you lose the advantage through overpassing. We've seen it sometimes in certain teams, but I would argue that's a really good shot. I would argue that the pass over to Fred VanVleet probably would have been an even better shot, but no complaints here. It's still a positive possession. Now here, this is one of my favorite plays of the game. OG Anunoby just decides, okay, this is my Kobe moment. So the game is right in the balance, right? 110, 109. Now, I want to preface something. Movement and the triangle offense, Princeton offense, a lot of these offenses that generate movement, sometimes at the end of the game, you need to make sure that the right guy ends up with the ball. Okay? Now, I'll argue that I'm not a fan of heliocentric offenses, and I'll argue that I'm not a fan of iso ball at all. If you can tell anything about me, trust me, if you're a fan of iso ball, you can check right out of this video. I'm not someone who's a proponent for iso ball, but I will say that certain times at the end of the game, you want the right people with the ball, okay? And I'll argue right now that with what OG Anunoby has shown so far this season, he and Scotty Barnes are the right people to have the ball at this point. So he calls for a screen. He gets the bigger, very slow-footed Drummond, who unintelligently, frankly, is trying to guard OG Anunoby 50 feet from the 45 feet from the basket. This is honestly just stupid. I don't know what the hell Drummond is thinking here. I mean, OG is not someone who has ever tried to shoot from 45 feet away. It's not Trae Young. It's not Steph Curry. I don't know what the hell you're doing here. But obviously OG sees it. He sees a wide open paint, right? But because the distance he has to cover is 45 feet, right? And he's not Ja Morant. He's not going to get to the rim in 2 seconds. So he beats his man, forces the defense to collapse, and then he does what I think someone like James Harden does extremely well: pitch out. So he falls over, little game of dominoes there, and he gets Fred VanVleet open for that shot, where Fred VanVleet tells us how big his balls are. And then to close out the game, we have OG Anunoby getting fouled and hitting the 2 free throws. All right, guys, let's go through the negative offensive possessions for your Toronto Raptors last night against the Sixers. I want to preface this by saying that negative possessions do not always result in turnovers. They do not always result in misses. Sometimes people make shots that are just bad shots. So I want to take you through each one of these plays from the second and fourth quarter last night and maybe give you a little insight in terms of what I'm seeing based on how the defense reacted to a particular player and what the right play might have been in that situation. So we're going to first start with that controversial 8-second violation. So right here, we're going to see that the refs obviously believe that the ball has changed possession. Fred VanVleet probably wouldn't agree. Nurse probably wouldn't agree, but it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. When the ball is inbounded, there are 20 seconds left on the shot clock, which means you have 3 seconds to make it up the court. And obviously, if you're a point guard out there, if you're a young point guard, this is what not to do. All right. So here we have a transition opportunity. Fred VanVleet is going to correctly run the ball up the court. Now, he attacks the defense and he forces one defender at least to commit to that. And he's really got the attention of all 3 defenders at this point. Now, I would argue that the right play here is a pass out to Spee, who will then be able to attack the defender that closes out on him, which will create an opening for OG Anunoby. I think that's the right way to play this personally, but let's see how Fred VanVleet does it. So at this point, he passes out to Gary Trent. As you can see, the ball was deflected, which is why Gary Trent takes an extra second to gather it. Now, we have 18 seconds left on the shot clock. I would argue that there really aren't any available passes at this moment, right? So it's not like he's clearly missing a guy underneath the basket. However, with 18 seconds left on the clock, this is a really good opportunity to pull out the ball and reinitiate your offense. This is not a great look for Gary Trent, and I really don't even care the fact that it didn't go in. It's just a bad shot. Now here we have 15 seconds on the clock. Precious Achiuwa, bit of a weak screen. He's not a very good screener. It's just sort of where you miss Kem Birch. Scotty peels around. He gives it to Precious Achiuwa. Then he cuts back. Now, neither one of these guys is a threat from here, and this is just a 6-second dance that effectively doesn't do anything for the defense, and it creates an opportunity for Precious Achiuwa to get a fadeaway over Andre Drummond, and on a night where you're 1 for 10, dude, this is just a terrible shot. And I would say that Scotty is as much to blame for that possession as Precious, because he should realize at this point that Precious is not the type of guy who can create his own shot like that. Even when attacking a slower defender like Andre Drummond is still a long defender, and Precious Achiuwa is vertically challenged in that matchup. So here we have Scotty Barnes. Rare opportunity to see Scotty Barnes making a mistake here, bringing the ball up the court really slowly, kind of walking it up. Let's see what he does here, because that's definitely not why this possession's a bad possession. So now we have 15 seconds in, and he's just dribble, sets the pick, release. Now, what's available to us? a three-pointer for Precious Achiuwa. This is what your movement has created, which is just bad offense, right? Andre Drummond is not paying attention to Precious Achiuwa right now, nor should he. And Precious Achiuwa is wide open. So Scotty Barnes is pretty much triple covered right now. Delano Banton and Precious Achiuwa on opposite ends. And Chris Boucher, for some reason, is just camping out there. And this is terrible offense. And this is honestly, I don't want to blame Fred VanVleet for this. This is on Nick Nurse for putting these players together on the court. You have three players who cannot shoot together, and it's just terrible. So what are we going to generate out of this? Well, obviously not much. We're going to generate. Now, I would argue this is putting bad offense on top of bad offense. So right here, Fred VanVleet doesn't really have anything, right? The floor has really shrunken. The Sixers are packing the paint. He passes to Chris Boucher, who then compounds his issues by now putting the ball in the court and lifting his dribble, right? So now he's stuck. And now he gives the ball to Fred VanVleet, who hoists up a shot, which, it missed. Now here we have Scotty Barnes, attacks the middle, forces the defense to collapse. Now here, this is I'm torn on whether this is a good possession or a bad possession, because Delano Banton is technically trying to do the right thing, and Scotty Barnes also tries to do the right thing. It just results in a negative thing for the Raptors because Delano Banton gets called for the offensive foul. Here we have another play here. Fred VanVleet okay. So again, this is not an open shot. This is not a great shot to be taking with this much time left on the clock. So here, Precious Achiuwa, just a terrible screen. I think people really need to start harping in. I mean, a lot of people harp on his terrible offensive output and his inconsistent defense. I think the biggest glaring difference between what you miss with Cam off and with Precious on is the fact that, frankly, a lot of Raptor front court players are just terrible screeners. The only two decent screeners on this team, well, three decent screeners, are Scotty Barnes, Kem Birch, and Yuta Watanabe. Everyone else just kind of pushes past the screen. Screens are not comfortable. Guys sometimes knee you in the balls, and I get it. It's sometimes uncomfortable to get hit, but they free up your offensive player, and Fred VanVleet gets absolutely no separation here. And then he forces, what's the available shot here, right? Nothing. It's just bad offense, right? I mean, if you pass to OG right now, I would argue that number 12 closes out on him, can't pass to Scotty. There's just really nothing available in this offense, and it results in a miss and just a bad shot. So here we have one of many, many possessions where Fred VanVleet has not let go of the ball, and we're 15 seconds in when he finally lets go of the ball. Is that a good shot for OG? Not really. By the time defender closes out, now it's post. Now pass to Scotty Barnes in a position where he can't score. Now here is what I want to outline. Right now, Scotty Barnes probably has a drive-by right there, but the drive-by goes away when Chris Boucher demands a post-up. This play literally drove me insane, because if you're Chris Boucher here, you need to get out of the paint, right? You need to. Now I understand why Chris Boucher thinks that he has a mismatch on Seth Curry, but I'm telling you right now, Seth Curry probably benches more than Chris Boucher, right? So in the post, Chris Boucher is not a great post player. In my opinion, he's a rim runner and a guy who gets leak out opportunities in transition. This is not a guy who has the base strength to be a great post player. You're just not a great post player if a point guard can push you out of position. And what you're seeing here is, boom. Okay. So now nothing is going to come out of this because Chris Boucher is not a passer. So Scotty Barnes doesn't even have a point to try to. So we're going to watch what Scotty does. Scotty clears out very slowly, right, to give Chris Boucher the isolation opportunity there. And it's just a miss. Okay. Now, man. How many times have I seen Fred VanVleet fall like this? I mean, there's sort of like a point where it's just beating a dead horse here, but this is just over dribbling, guys. So now he picks up the ball, picks it up, dribble, passes it to Scotty. Now this is another mistake. This is a mistake compounding a mistake. The first mistake was Fred VanVleet's over dribbling. The second mistake right now is Scotty Barnes. The third mistake is that Chris Boucher refuses to get out of the... I want to avoid swearing here, but honestly, watching Chris Boucher on offense really makes me mad. The fact that he is demanding a post up on a reasonable post defender there is pretty insane to me. And the fact that Scotty has a clear drive and Chris Boucher is just hugging his man. And then now by the time he moves, the second defender, which I believe is Shake Milton, there, this video is kind of grainy, recovers. And so Scotty Barnes just takes a bad shot. And I would argue that that's all three players, that's on all three players right there. So now here we have another offensive possession, a lot of dribbling, dribble, and the refs, I would argue, just bail Fred VanVleet out, because that was going to be a contested, horrible layup over 2 or 3 defenders. Okay, Scotty Barnes. Okay, dribble handoff to Fred VanVleet. Fred VanVleet pulls out, takes a screen. Now here, Scotty Barnes has a very, very good mismatch here against Tyrese Maxey. Now, the shot's going to go in, but any shooter, any NBA shooter is going to tell you no one aims for the backboard from there. Okay, it's just that's always a fluke. And even though the shot went in, I would argue it's just a bad shot. There was a better shot available right there, which is Scotty in the post against Tyrese Maxey. And yeah, just don't like that. It's too early. Now, Fred VanVleet brings the ball up the court, gives the ball to Gary Trent. Now, I want you to see the pass that Gary Trent misses, because there was a positive possession before where I said I was very surprised that he made a pass to OG. But here, I want you to see the pass to Scotty Barnes that he misses. And I want you to see at the moment that he's taking the shot, I want you to look at where Scotty Barnes is. There is no chance in hell, no chance that is anything but 2 points going to the basket for Scotty Barnes. The defender is 4 feet behind him, 5 feet behind him. He cannot catch him. It's just such an obvious play, but Gary Trent's going to look for his shot, and it's going to be a miss, right? Let's look at another offensive possession here, which is another slow to initiate. I can already tell Fred VanVleet jogging the ball up the court very slowly. Okay, now we are 13 seconds into the clock before he makes a pass, and I would argue, it's not a pass that creates any sort of separation. OG Anunoby gets the ball in the post against a favorable matchup here. And by the time he makes his move, that split second that he took too long to make that move, everyone has condensed. Somebody needed to relocate to the corner to give OG a pass, or relocate to the opposite corner, strong side corner, for OG to have a kick out. Unfortunately, pretty much 9 guys are in the paint, and OG Anunoby is completely swarmed by 3 defenders. This is going to be a terrible shot if he makes it. And the only pass really is Fred VanVleet. And honestly, Fred VanVleet, a veteran player, he needs to know angles. He needs to understand that this is a chance to relocate. This is not a chance to stand 35 feet away from the basket outside the play. And this is just stupid. And again, for people watching this at home, you're going to say that was a bad shot by OG Anunoby, to which I would say it's bad offense facilitating bad shots, okay? Because when a guy collapses 3 defenders on him, that's a positive thing for your offense. But when all other guys just huddle up next to him, that's not going to present any passing lanes. And then when your point guard is 35 feet away from the basket, again, at a wrong angle, right? Again, if Fred VanVleet had just relocated to the corner, that's an easy shot. But he doesn't make that off the ball read. Now here, we have Fred VanVleet, again, another slow to initiate offensive possession. 12 seconds, 11 seconds, 10 seconds, 9, 10, and just a layup, right? So no movement, right? Let's just look at that possession again. Takes a double screen, which isn't really there, and forces a contested layup against 2 defenders. I don't like that shot at all. Was there a better shot available? Let's check it out. Was there something better than that available? Honestly, no. A corner kick out to Svi probably would have been pretty open, but I would argue Seth Curry probably recovers on that. But it would have been closer to the right idea than what this was. Okay, Scotty nearly gets the offensive rebound, and he gets pushed out of the play, which means that he'll be slow to recover on defense, which actually does result in a 2 for the Sixers. Okay, now Scotty gets the ball, 13 seconds, 12, 11, right? So, okay, I remember this play very well. So let's go back and just really check it out. So a lot of people think that Scotty should attack Andre Drummond on this matchup, right? And to that, I would say, how? How do you attack a matchup? Even if you get past your guy, there are two defenders who are so close because your offensive players, including Svi, including Fred, including OG, are all pretty much congested in the middle of the floor. This is where you need to space out. This is where Scotty needs to move to the left side of the basket and attack from a position, from a closer angle and a better angle to attack the defense. And it's on the other players to really see the situation and adjust accordingly, because this is a mismatch if there ever was one on the perimeter. We know Scotty Barnes is a phenomenal paint finisher, and he's great at getting past this man, especially when that man is a 300-pound defensive liability. And what you're going to see is OG cut, and then you're going to see Fred VanVleet come up to the ball, and instead of setting the screen, he pretty much just takes the ball from him. And now he rejects the screen, which I think is compounding, again, a bad decision on top of another bad decision. And he's going to force a contested three, right? It's just terrible offense. I don't know how else to explain it. Here we have another possession where the first pass is pretty much made at 15 seconds. Now here, Scotty is not a threat. Look at this offense right now, right? There is not one person who is unguarded, not one person who is in a position to score. Scotty Barnes is not a threat from 35 feet from the basket, okay? So now Scotty is going to throw the pass over to Precious Achiuwa in the corner, who's for some reason camping out in the corner because the spacing on this team is just so horrendous. And he's going to attack a favorable matchup. And then he's going to pretty much just... Okay, let's break this down. So this possession, the first mistake of this possession really is how slow they are to initiate it, right? So at this point, your offense hasn't generated anything positive. Right now, the right move would be to swing the pass to Chris Boucher, who has like an open line to the basket. And you can see Chris Boucher wanted it. Doesn't make that pass, passes instead to Scotty Barnes. Then he passes off target, which is a no-no, to Precious Achiuwa, who catches the ball, nearly falling out of bounds. And then he decides he's going to make this pass, right? And when he doesn't have the angle, the right play right now is a pass to Chris Boucher. That is the argument that I will make. Chris Boucher is wide open. Defense has their back turned to him. Even though he's struggling, the right pass is to Chris Boucher, or the right pass would have been a shuffle pass to Scotty Barnes. I just want you to see how open that was. Okay. Three guys are open. One of them is very open. One of them is very, very open. And one of them is lightly going to be contested. And by the time that pass is made, guys, this is the NBA. It's obviously going to be a closeout. OG attacks the closeout. He gets himself a shot. That shot is just so much harder than it needed to be. It's not a terrible possession. It's just not a good possession. All right. Okay. So let's break that down. So Fred VanVleet attacks early, goes up against three defenders, and that should have been, or could have been, but let's just really see it. Okay. So here he attacks. Now, the reason this offense is terrible right now is I want you to see how wide open OG Anunoby is. Right? This is excellent penetration by Fred VanVleet, but this penetration should be the catalyst to move the ball. Scotty Barnes is not a threat. Precious Achiuwa is going right into grab the offensive rebound. Really, the open player here is OG Anunoby for three. And if Fred VanVleet had the court awareness, he would make that shot. Instead, he gets a foul, right? It's not a shooting foul. I would argue it probably should have been a shooting foul. But with the way the whistle's been going, guys, that's probably just, it's not a gamble you want to take going 4-on-1 into the paint. Going 4-on-1, someone has to be open. Gary Trent was open. OG was open. I would argue it's just a bad shot. Okay. Fred VanVleet. And yet another possession where we're 15 seconds into the clock and not a single pass has been made. Let's freeze frame it. See this. We're 12 seconds. Now half the shot clock has ticked down, not a single pass. OG, not a great screen. Creates the mismatch that he wants, which is Tyrese Maxey. Doesn't seal hard enough. Scotty Barnes. Okay. The reason that is a bad offensive possession is decision making by Precious Achiuwa. So I want to just break this down slowly. So right here, instead of forcing the pass, Precious Achiuwa flashes for a free throw line jumper. And frankly, this is a shot that he's taken many times, but because he's struggling right now, he overthinks it. And he thinks he's going to get a pump fake and then go over 3 defenders. It's just a bad decision, right? Okay, now here we have Scotty Barnes, Precious Achiuwa. I think Scotty Barnes overpasses to Precious Achiuwa. Now I want you to see the pass that Precious Achiuwa misses here. Look at OG Anunoby. Look how wide open he is. There's no one within 3 feet of him. He's wide open underneath the basket, calling for the ball. So it's not like he's being timid about it. He is demanding the ball. Now, can't make that pass. Got to pass to Fred. Okay, so Precious Achiuwa, another weak screen. Okay, another kind of weak screen that probably could have been called an offensive foul. Passes out to Gary Trent. Now we're 3.9 seconds on the clock, and Gary Trent is going to have to beat the shot clock, and he makes it. So here's the thing. Again, just because it went in doesn't mean it was a good possession. You gave up a very, very good shot to get a very difficult shot. That's a hallmark of bad offense. So here we have another possession where the ball has not changed. And again, look at that shot right there. That you can make an argument that that's open, right? Maybe, but it's not, right? And with the guy coming behind you, those back contests, they're very bothersome for shooters. Obviously, Fred VanVleet is adjusting his body and his form to not get blocked. So he launches a little early there, and it's a clank. So here we have, okay, so this is the first time, well, one of the first times in these bad offensive possessions that the ball has changed hands this early in the clock. And here's Scotty pitch back. Now, I want you to see the obvious pass here is to Scotty Barnes. That's the obvious pass. It's so clear this is a dunk or a pass for him. And he's the one who's pulling in the gravity right now. But Fred VanVleet is going to wait too long, and then he's going to try to pass to Precious Achiuwa for some reason, and it's going to result in a near turnover and then a contested shot at the rim for Barnes. So a little bit more dribble. Now, why is that a bad shot? Well, you're going to see on the replay why that's a bad shot. Look at this. That was not a pass. That was a turnover waiting to happen. Fred VanVleet entered the paint completely out of control. And someone was joking on the game thread that the only way Fred VanVleet passes to Scotty Barnes is by accident, and this was by accident. So Scotty Barnes, just good hands, those big Kawhi, Michael Jordan hands that he has. He just grabs it, those big mitts, and he puts it up, and good awareness to just go right up with it and not get cute about it, right? All right, that's it for us here. Thank you for sticking through to the end for those who have. This is fun for me, right? Video breakdowns really do help my understanding of the game. I hope that they're helping you also see the game with a more critical eye, so that what you see on the TV screen can translate into better and more thoughtful discussions about basketball. If you're a young player out there, I really do suggest that you do this yourself. Game breakdowns are a fantastic way to break the game down into 20, 23, 24 second increments and just see sort of like what pieces are in which place. And it just really helps your awareness. As a young player, I think this was one of the most helpful things that anyone ever taught me when I was a young basketball player, just to see the game in a little more critical eye, see it from a different vantage point. So I hope this helps. And if you agree with my takes, absolutely, let me know in the comments below what you agreed with, what you didn't agree with. If you like it, hit like, hit subscribe. If you don't like it, hit dislike. Let me know, what you didn't like about what I had to say tonight. So this is it for me. This is my first video. I'm kind of proud. I'm really excited, and I look forward to bringing you guys more. Take care. Bye.